equal, with the inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, or in this case, the right to take down a few Sith Lords. The final battle came at Yorktown, where the forces of light and dark met in a cataclysmic struggle. Washington and Cornwallis, Jedi and Sith, fought with the full might of the Force behind them. Flintlock blasters cracked through the air like thunder, while lightsabers sliced through the gloom, each swing a testament to the fight for freedom. And when the dust settled, it was the colonial Jedi who stood victorious. Cornwallis defeated, surrendered, and the force of liberty triumphed over tyranny. The Sith were driven back across the sea and a new hope was born, a republic where the force of freedom would reign supreme. But the story does not end there. Knowing that the dark side could rise again, the Founding Fathers in their final moments channeled all their power, their wisdom, and their hope for the future into one single powerful crystal, a crystal of liberty. They knew that one day the force of liberty would need a new champion, someone worthy to wield this ancient power and restore balance when the force of freedom was once again threatened. For generations, the crystal lay hidden, its power waiting for the right moment, the right person to awaken it. And then, one fateful day, it was discovered by a man named Austin Peterson, a libertarian, a modern-day freedom fighter who would fulfill the destiny set in motion centuries before. The crystal called to him, and with it, Austin took up the mantle of the colonial Jedi, determined to bring balance back to the force of liberty in the United States. Through his show, the Wake Up America show, Austin Peterson became the voice of resistance, the spark of rebellion against the creeping darkness of tyranny. With the power of the Founding Fathers' crystal, he fights not with lightsabers or blasters, but with the force of truth, reason, and unwavering dedication to the principles of liberty. So remember, young Padawan, the fight for freedom is never easy, but with courage, unity, and a little bit of force on your side, even the darkest Sith can be vanquished. May the force of freedom be with you, always. In a galaxy not so far away, but a couple of centuries ago, a great struggle unfolded. A time of turmoil, where the force of freedom clashed against the oppressive grip of tyranny. This is the story of the Founding Fathers, the brave Jedi of the colonies, who dared to defy the dark side of the Redcoat Sith. Master George Washington, leader of the colonial Jedi, was no ordinary soldier. With a flintlock blaster in one hand, capable of delivering precise shots with the power of 1,000 musket balls, and a lightsaber forged from the ancient Liberty crystals, Washington was the beacon of hope in the darkness that covered the 13 colonies. And then there was Benjamin Franklin, the Yoda of the Revolution. Wise, cunning, and always a few steps ahead, Franklin's mind was sharper than his lightsaber, which he personally modified to discharge bolts of lightning, perfect for frying any Redcoat Sith foolish enough to cross his path. But the colonial Jedi were not without opposition. The Redcoat Sith, led by the Dark Lord Cornwallis, had crossed the Atlantic, bringing with them the dark side of taxation without representation. Their red lightsabers blazed like the very flames of oppression, ready to extinguish the light of liberty forever. The battles were fierce, and the stakes higher than the price of tea in Boston Harbor. At Bunker Hill, the colonial Jedi held their ground, their flintlock blasters firing energy bolts that could punch through the toughest redcoat armor. With each pull of the trigger, a burst of light and smoke, a fusion of the old and the new. And who could forget Thomas Jefferson, the Jedi Knight who penned the Declaration of Independence with one hand while wielding his lightsaber with the other? It was he who gave voice to the rebellion, declaring that all men are created equal, with the inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, or, in this case, the right to take down a few Sith Lords. The final battle came at Yorktown, where the forces of light and dark met in a cataclysmic struggle. Washington and Cornwallis, Jedi and Sith, fought with the full might of the Force behind them. Flintlock blasters cracked through the air like thunder, while lightsabers sliced through the gloom, each swing a testament to the fight for freedom. And when the dust settled, it was the colonial Jedi who stood victorious. Cornwallis defeated, surrendered, and the force of liberty triumphed over tyranny. The Sith were driven back across the sea and a new hope was born, a republic where the force of freedom would reign supreme. But the story does not end there. Knowing that the dark side could rise again, the Founding Fathers in their final moments channeled all their power, their wisdom, and their hope for the future into one single powerful crystal, a crystal of liberty. They knew that one day the force of liberty would need a new champion, someone worthy to wield this ancient power and restore balance when the force of freedom was once again threatened. For generations, the crystal lay hidden, its power waiting for the right moment, the right person to awaken it. And then, one fateful day, it was discovered by a man named Austin Peterson, a libertarian, a modern-day freedom fighter who would fulfill the destiny set in motion centuries before. The crystal called the crystal.
Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Happy anniversary to my beautiful wife, Stephanie. She got her gift this morning. Before I, oh, hey, here we go. She got her gift this morning before I left for work. No, not that.
Do not come.
That's relate.
Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
No, Mr. President, don't go there. It's a nasty one. I like when the President Donald Trump says, "That's a nasty one." It's a nasty one. The Wake Up America show is live. We're hanging out with Ike, giving a shits, Dad Bod Baboon, Floby Tenderson, Barney Styles, my dinosaur man, Sign of Jonah, the whale, Cecilia. What's up, Cecilia? How you doing? My lovely Stephanie, T-Mill 22. Oh, you're right. It is another beautiful morning in mid-Missouri. God bless America. God bless Missouri. The Wake Up America show. We're all going to have a great day today because we're going to start the show off right. We've got so much content. There's no way I'll be able to get through all of it. It's too much. Well, let's start at the very top. Tulsi Gabbard joins the Republican Party. Coconut milk mommy. Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Shake your booty. But she's more than a hot piece of ace, if you know what I mean, Veronica Vaughn. She is also a veteran. She is a former congresswoman. She was a Democratic congresswoman, but she's no longer an independent. She's off the fence. She's on the Donald Trump train. Take a listen.
And it is because of my love for our country, and specifically because of the leadership that President Trump has brought to transform the Republican Party and bring it back to the party of the people and the party of peace, that I'm proud to stand here with you today, President Trump, and announce that I'm joining the Republican Party. I'm joining the party of the people, the party of equality, the party that was founded to fight against and end slavery in this country. It is the party of common sense and the party that is led by a president who has the courage and strength to fight for peace.
You just love to see it. More and more independents getting off of the fence, joining the Republican Party. I've got an incredible guest for you today at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. This is a kind of guest that you either just have to say, sorry, boss, I can't do my job until 9 a.m. Central Time this morning, because you've got to hear from another former Democrat, not just any former Democrat, Michael J. Hout. He was president of his college Democrats, vice president for all the college Democrats in his state. He held a national position with the College Democrats of America, where he was responsible for chartering new chapters of College Democrats. He worked on the Clinton campaign as a motorcade driver. He organized phone banks, rallies, protests, canvassing for Clinton. He donated to Joe Biden in 2020, and he voted for Donald Trump for the first time. He's going to be on my show today. God damn. It's the Wake Up America show, and we've got an amazing lineup for you today. 3 guests back to back and a million billion clips that I won't have time to be able to play them all. I've put them in the best order I can to show you an order of importance or hilarity, because sometimes we just gotta laugh. We just gotta laugh at all of the communist BS. You know, no offense.
It sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Interesting betting activity happening in the poly markets. Millions of dollars flowing into private betting markets on the side of Donald Trump. You know who's a good person to talk about that? Maxim Lott. He'll be here at 7:30 to break down not only the odds there, Trump's poly-market election odds topping 65%, but also Wall Street. Wall Street pros are getting into a position to profit from a Trump win. And as we all know, in the days before 9/11, some people have a little bit more information than others. Whoopsie. Ike Giving a Shit says that your anniversary is worth much more than $5. Crowdsource, priming the pump. Blessings to you and yours. Be generous to our leader today. Great guest today. Grassroots converts. Yes. Grassroots. Converts or converts? LaDubs, my boy. L-Dubs. Latrell, what's happening, my man? I love seeing you here every morning, brother. I appreciate your voice in the comments. Good morning to Joni Rankin. I see another fellow Missourian. Did you guys see the story about what happened yesterday here in Missouri, actually, my home state? Democratic Senate candidate shot a reporter. No wonder they want gun control. What's the story? Well, briefly, Adam Kinzinger, you know that idiot traitor that is like the Republican who hates everything that's Republican? He came out to do a shooting event with Lucas Kuntz, who's running against Josh Hawley here in Missouri, and he ended up shooting the reporter on accident, right? It was like they winged him, right? No wonder Democrats want gun control. Here, the reporter is from Channel 41. That's KSHB, Kansas City. 41 Fox Kids Club, you know what I'm saying? Here's Lucas Kuntz, the candidate on the left. There's Adam Kinzinger. Note that he's got the stock of that rifle way up outside of his arm. No wonder the reporter got shot. Look at this. Look at these soy boys, as Pootie Pie would say. Soy boys. Check out that. Tim Walz can't handle his gun either. Oh, God.
How dare you?
The Democratic gun violence has to end. It has to end. Thank you, Angelo, by the way, for pointing it out. I should have titled the show today, Democrat Senate candidate shoots reporter. Even Bill Maher is waking up to the shenanigans today. He doesn't go full-blown Tulsi Gabbard yet, or full-blown Robert F. Kennedy Jr., but listen to the way he talks about Elon Musk. Take a listen to this.
This is where the rubber meets the road, because this is important. He wanted to, this week, he's suing the 12-member commission, the California Coastal Commission. He launches his rockets from Vandenberg Space Force Base. We used to call it Air Force Base, but I guess now we're into Space Force time. He wanted the proposal to expand the number of launches. Okay, again, one of the most impressive companies, an American company. He wants a little more, give it to him. No. The commission, some bureaucrat, said nope, and this is the reason why. Commissioner Carol Hart saying, we're dealing with a company, the head of which has aggressively injected himself into the presidential race and made it clear what his point of view is. Yes, because he lives in America, and he can do that. Yeah. It has nothing to do with this, and, you know...
This is America. This is America.
On, it's going to be America first, okay? America first.
AP for Liberty Shop over in the chat says, why do Democrats shoot journalists? It's a great question.
How dare you?
Why do Democrats shoot journalists? No idea there, but let's let him finish. I'm gonna let you finish.
The right thinks that the left is in a very different place with free speech than they have been before, and they're not wrong. They're not wrong. This is arrogant. You don't punish somebody. It would be like if we stopped Henry Ford from making the cars. Right. Because we didn't like what
but can you take one anecdotal example? One idiot, right? Truly an idiot to stop.
This is not an idiot. This is someone with power.
Thank you, Bill. He's not letting him off the hook. I did play the clip yesterday of Mark Cuban where he said that he's for America first. Sure. First. They're all starting to see it in the cards. We'll speak to Maxim Lott at 7:30, so about 20 minutes from now, about some of the unusual betting activity happening, not just in private markets where people play the odds on who's going to win the president of the United States, which Maxim is an expert on because he has a website that tracks that, but also Wall Street bets. So people not just betting their own money in funny little silly games, but the big game, the big silly game, right? F the clients. It's Wall Street, baby. Absolutely. I can't quote anything from Wolf of Wall Street because it's basically all perversion and disgusting F words and S words and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I literally can say whatever I want because I'm on live stream, but I don't know. I'm not trying to like alienate absolutely everybody this morning. It's the Wake Up America show and we need friends, honestly. We need friends. How to win friends and influence people. Today is my 3rd anniversary. My lovely wife, Stephanie, is the best thing that's ever happened to me. She supported me in my wild dreams. I was reading the news yesterday about Timcast. Apparently Tim Pool's going into like a depressive state. And I was thinking about it the other day because it's been like 2 years since I've been on Tim's show. And I was wondering how they're doing. So I was checking in on him and I saw that he apparently was really upset about how his podcast business is being run or not run efficiently or effectively. And then I saw that he was letting a bunch of people go and trying to change things around there. It's hard to find a CEO. It's funny because I had just published an article either yesterday or the day before about how I hired ChatGPT to be my CEO because, you know, I ain't got Timcast money. I have to grow. I can only spend in my business what I raise in my business, right? So there's no cash reserves out there like crazy, right? It's like go up and we invest and we go down. But the Tim Pool situation is interesting because I see a lot of people who are criticizing Tim Pool, which fair enough, like Bill Maher was saying, we live in America. You can have an opinion about somebody like that, opinions about somebody like me. But I see a lot of, this is not just to defend my industry, but I see a lot of people who are like, oh, what, you can't make enough money to like take time off and do all this stuff. Well, it's just a podcast, man. Or it's like the people that Tim had let go were talking about how they were looking for jobs, right? Because they had these jobs as podcasters. And you can say, oh, well, if you've never done this before, you just get a webcam and look into a camera and talk and make it work. And you could do that as a job. Anybody can do it. Ask the boys of Liberty tonight if anybody can do it. Ask Nelson, my boy Nelson, fellow Missouri boy, when he comes in on the odd day to help me set up in the morning, right? If it's something to do, sure, anybody can look into a webcast, upload a podcast, and nobody will watch it. But how do you actually build it as a career, as a stable, profitable, lucrative industry? I think Tim is running into some of the same problems that I have. He's just doing it at scale. And I'm working in his direction, and he seems to, I won't say be receding. I don't know anything about his internal analytics, but he seems to feel as if he's unfulfilled in what he's doing and that it's not being run efficiently or effectively. Call me. I've been there. It's been a couple of years, but if you're still running it out of your house with people living there like a hippie commune, Tim, might be wise to rethink it as a different kind of a business structure, business model, right? And I mean, not that I have, again, that I'm one to talk, right? Or that I'm as big as Tim Pool, right? Trying to speak with a little humility here. Not being a naturally humble person, but just trying to be honest about the chasm between the two of us in terms of size and responsibility. I can say that there's a lot of fat. And people who are outside your organization can see it easier. And then also people who are outside your organization have blind spots because they don't have the access to the information that you have. But I will say that, I run mine like a hippie commune because it's literally my wife and one part-time employee and then 3 remote people whom I've never actually met in real life, if you can believe it. Daniela, Brian, and King Libertarian. Never met them. All of our business has been conducted online. So running one show here, making it profitable after 2 years, and then also starting 2 new shows, and then taking everything that I've like all of the profit that I had over the last 2 years that I saved up for investing back in the business, I invested in those guys, right? Sending them equipment, lights, cameras, things like that. So it's not just, turn on the computer, look in the webcam, and I'm famous and suddenly you make a lot of money. People give you money. Some people think it's like that. It's definitely not. And it's not to just say, oh, woe is me and it's terrible. I love my job and it's fantastic. And I really can't think of anything else I would rather do than to serve you in your morning show, a hot cup of coffee, run the merchandise shop. In many ways, this is a dream job. But it's not, it is a job. And I treat it like a job. I don't treat it like somebody just talking into a laptop. I treat it like a business, and I run it like a business so that I can accomplish my dreams, make my dreams come true, and take this network into something that is big, that is important, that is destination listing for a subsector of the American people and maybe people internationally, but also to expand into documentary filmmaking and also into feature film. And yesterday I started, or the last 2 days, I've been scouting locations for the final part of the shoot of the Battle of Athens documentary, my first feature-length documentary. You might remember I went there at the end of last year to record interviews with people who were close to the incident of the Battle of Athens in the 1940s. Now I'm looking for locations, actors, and equipment and crew to film the great scene of the Battle of Athens, and it's going to happen. I'm going to have to ask you guys for a lot more money. We're going to have to make a lot more money to make it happen, but we're not going to give it away. We're going to do it ourselves. We're going to bootstrap it. We're going to build it brick by brick, and we're going to make America great again by making liberty great again. That's what makes America exceptional. Thank you to Kilsharian and L-Dubs for your generous donations this morning for the anniversaries. So, I'm practicing what I preach, says Floby Tenderson, that family building. He's practicing. You're talking about Tim Pool. He's having a family. Yes, I heard that. That's fantastic. He's getting married, starting a family. So the reason he had to scale back was all the projects, plus now having a family. Yes, I did see that. Thank you, L-Dubs, for reminding me. Beautiful. Glad to have you here. Dad Bod Baboon says he doesn't have one podcast. He has multiple, plus employees, plus trying to launch a coffee shop, a lot on the table and not enough proper help. Yep, absolutely true. AP would never whine on air like Tim Pool did. True, but Tim Pool would never beg for money like Austin Peterson would.
Can you bless me with
he
something?
Doesn't have to.
Oh, gosh. Money-wise. Please.
Can you suck it?
See, there you go. So that's the difference between Tim Pool and I is that AP would never whine, but Tim Pool would never beg. Yes, there you go. I'm living, I'm laughing, I'm loving at Kamala. Isn't that sad that it's that close, Camellia? Do you kind of hate that? Kamala, don't worry, she's going to be gone after November. That Kamala Harris is serving up the word salad. Can anybody make out what she's saying here?
Can you say that you were honest with the American people about what you saw in those moments with President Biden as you were with him again and again, repeatedly in that time?
Of course. Joe Biden is an extremely accomplished, experienced, and capable in every way that anyone would want if they're president.
And you never saw anything like what happened at the debate night behind closed doors with him?
It was a bad debate. People have bad debates. He is absolutely.
But that's the reason why you're here, and he's not running for the top of the ticket.
Well, you'd have to ask him if that's the only reason why.
What do you think?
I am running for president of the United States. I speak with not only sincerity, but with a real firsthand account of watching him do this work. I have no reluctance in saying that.
What did you say? What is that? I speak with sincerity. Sure you do. Yes, here's somebody speaking with sincerity.
Now notice my palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. Vomit on my sweater already. Mom's spaghetti.
What?
I'm nervous, but on the surface I look calm and ready to drop bombs, but I keep on forgetting.
The worst rapper. I know white guys that can rap better than that. Here's somebody who's far more articulate.
This is a guy who also wants to replace every civil servant, every single one.
Oh, nice.
Thinks he has a right under the Supreme Court ruling on immunity to be able, if need be, if it was the case, to actually physically eliminate, shoot, kill.
What?
Someone who he believes to be a threat to him.
Wait a minute. Are we talking about the Democratic U.S. Senate candidate here, Joe? Or are you talking about Trump? What are you trying to say here?
I mean, so I know this sounds bizarre. It sounds like if I said this 5 years ago, you'd lock me up. We got to lock him up.
Oh, so you're not trying to arrest your political, so you're accusing Trump of trying to arrest political opponents, but you're saying now that we need to lock him up. Isn't that interesting? They say the quiet part out loud. That's President Joe Biden. Here's Obama with a bit of the irony to start the day.
I don't understand how we got so toxic and just so divided and so bitter. And I get why sometimes people just don't want to pay attention to it. And we all have friends like that. We have family members who just like, it's all a circus out there. I get that.
You're toxic. I'm slipping under. Now, where could anybody have gotten the idea? How do you think that things might have gotten a little toxic in this country? Do you think anybody could find out, Mr. President? That's Barack Obama talking about how toxic the political debate in the United States has become, which is quite fascinating if you consider this supercut of his own words. Just him by his own petard.
One of my few regrets is my inability to reduce the polarization and meanness in our politics.
Oh, that sounds reasonable.
You've seen an extreme faction of the Republican Party that has shown again and again and again that they're willing to hijack the entire party and the country and the economy.
Same way members of Congress and the House Republicans in particular don't get to demand ransom in exchange for doing their jobs.
That ideological extremism and maximalist position is much more prominent right now in the Republican Party.
I think it's somewhat ironic to see some members of Congress wanting to make common cause with the hardliners in Iran. You don't negotiate by putting a gun to the other person's head, or worse yet, by putting a gun to the American people's head by threatening a shutdown. Think about what we could do if a reckless few didn't hold the economy hostage every few months.
It is not a negotiation if I show up at your house and say, give me everything inside or I'm going to burn it down. What we're not for is negotiating with people who have a bomb strapped to their chest. The Republicans have provided a laundry list of essentially ransom demands.
I cannot think of a more potent recruitment tool for ISIL than some of the rhetoric that's been coming out of here.
The Americans, it's the Republicans who are responsible. Sure. It's people like this. They're the terrorists.
And it is because of my love for our country, and specifically because of the leadership that President Trump has brought to transform the Republican Party and bring it back to the party of the people and the party of peace, that I'm proud to stand here with you today, President Trump, and announce that I'm joining the Republican Party. I'm joining the party of the people, the party of equality, the party that was founded to fight against and end slavery in this country. It is the party of common sense, and the party that is led by a president who has the courage and strength to fight for peace.
Peace. That's right. The Republican Party. I saw my old buddy, Eric Brakey in New Hampshire. He's the head of the Free State Project out there, was talking about the fact that he's voting for Donald Trump. He was like me in New York. We kind of like grew up in the Ron Paul movement together, and we've been friends for a very long time. We have very similar backgrounds, and we've always been buds and kept in touch with each other and sort of coordinated and helped one another over the years. And he announced that he is voting for Donald Trump, and he explained why he's doing it. Part of it is because of his foreign policy. That's why people like Tulsi Gabbard and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and other Democrats are making their way over to the Republican Party. At 8:30 a.m. Central Time today, I'm going to speak to a former top Democrat who has voted for Trump. His name's Michael Howdy. He's joining us at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. You do not want to miss it. And we've also got Big Brain Time with Judge Napolitano. And we've also got Maxim Lott. You guys, you've already unlocked the bonus content because on my anniversary, you guys have been so generous this morning in making those contributions. Thank you very much for that. And for those of you who don't know, it's 3 years, 3 anniversary. My beautiful wife, Stephanie, we'd love it if you'd make a contribution to help support the Wake Up America show for Liberty Network, and maybe a little, I don't know, milk in the baby's bottle, we shall say. We'll be right back. Enjoy the bonus content. I'll be here with Maxim Lott to talk about the odd betting happening on Donald Trump.
Wake Up America shows bonus content. The financial generosity of our Jing in political discussions. His research found that only 56% of Christian churches in
Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. We're glad and thankful to have you here. Nice to see you. Yesterday, my buddy Kenny, I run his merchandise operations for his radio station down in Texas on the Gulf Coast. He reached out to me and said, Austin, do you think that this shirt design goes too far? At least this idea that he had for his merch shop. And it was the Helen Keller Memorial Gun Range, which I actually thought was quite hilarious, to be honest. Very offensive. I put it in the shop for him. The Helen Keller Memorial Gun Range has got bullet holes all over there. Why is Helen Keller firing a gun? I don't think it's a good idea. Well, what is a good idea is heading to 4libertyshop.com. That's the number 4 libertyshop.com. Thanks so much for tuning into the show today. Let's talk about the news. The betting odds of former President Donald Trump winning next month's election rose to their highest level since President Joe Biden ceded way to Vice President Kamala Harris. But the increasingly popular election betting platform Polymarket reportedly is investigating the source of the massive wagers driving the odds shift amid scrutiny into the 8-figure bets on Donald Trump. We need an expert on this. Maxim, co-founder of electionbettingodds.com. Glad to have you here, brother. Maxim, good morning.
Hey, Austin. Good morning to you.
Tell me, Maxim, what's going on? There's like tens of millions of dollars being poured into the private betting markets. We'll talk about the Wall Street bets later, but what's happening out there? Electionbettingodds.com tracking some of this. What's the story?
Yeah, there have been big shifts in just the last couple of weeks. Trump went from 45% chance of winning the presidency to 60%. That's a big shift. And people have noticed there's one particularly big trader on Polymarket who's put in several tens of millions of dollars, and that's been part of this shift. So people are saying, oh, is this manipulation? We don't know for sure, but it seems like he's buying just like any normal trader, like trying to get as much as he can at the lowest possible price. So it's probably just someone who wants to put money on Trump and thinks he'll win.
I mean, this is all perfectly legal activity, Maxim. Like, where do these markets exist? I mean, I know here in the United States, I think it's verboten, right? But this is all foreign markets?
It's complicated. The big whale who put tens of millions, he appears to be in France, and he's betting on offshore crypto-based markets. But we also have American markets. There's one that's particularly, so it's a legal gray area. There was one called Predict It that's grandfathered in. They have all sorts of regulations on them, maximum $850 you can trade. They have a lot of traders, in DC Beltway types. Now this market, it's hard to manipulate because you have that money limit. So it's, you can't just create 1,000 accounts and bring it up. So it's interesting looking at the differences. Polymarket right now has Trump at 63%, and Predicted, the regulated one, has him at 57%. And it gives you a sense, even if you think there's some manipulation going on, 57% would be like your lower bound. This market's clearly not being manipulated. And they're still saying Trump is clearly the favorite. I mean, it's still a close race, to be clear. And we're talking, margins of 1 or 2% in the outcome. But Trump is favored by all the markets. So it's not just manipulation that's going on.
Fascinating. I mean, it almost is starting to feel kind of like Hillary Clinton 2016, where a lot of the momentum was like, oh, it's Hillary, 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 and then crash on the other side, right? Because, anything can happen, and the outcome really rests on what happens in the battleground states. So there's kind of 3 layers to this conversation, or this topic that we're discussing here, Maxim. One, there's, you and electionbettingodds.com and the poly markets, the mysterious private betting markets. But then there's sort of like the open trades that are happening on Wall Street, where people are betting legally in a sort of secondary, tertiary manner on a Donald Trump victory. People are really, I say hedging their bets, but a lot of people are starting to shift their assets into funds that might benefit from a Donald Trump victory. What kind of funds would, in your mind, could you speculate, what kind of funds would benefit from a Donald Trump victory versus a Kamala Harris? I mean, defense stocks versus, I guess, non-defense stocks, right? Because he's the more dovish of the 2 candidates. The Democrats are kind of the war party these days. But how can we look at this from the Wall Street angle on this one, in terms of some of the strongest, brightest, best minds, the quants, on their expectations of the outcome of a Trump victory?
Yeah, well, it's interesting to look at Donald Trump, the stock for Truth Social, Donald Trump's own company. And just in the last couple of weeks, that has more than doubled, clearly showing that some people on Wall Street are seeing a trend in his direction. As far as other stocks, I think cryptocurrency is a big one to watch. Certainly, Trump has been overtly favorable towards them, saying, I'm not going to overregulate these. And the Democrats have floated those ideas. So I could see that rising if Trump wins, for sure.
Yoni, my friend over in the chat, she's a fellow Missourian here. She's a big supporter of the show. She says mining, which makes a lot of sense, because I can imagine that a lot of permits that had been held up by the Biden administration might start getting handed out. Are you making any bets at all, Maxim? I know you're a big betting guy.
I've had for a couple months some money on Trump on these different states like Pennsylvania. So that seems to be playing out well. I'm thinking about selling soon, though. These odds are getting kind of high. The bettors have Trump favored in every swing state right now, and Georgia 75%, Arizona 75%. That's getting pretty confident, and I'm wondering if that's confident enough by now.
Maxim, the last part of this conversation regarding odds and bets and things like that relies on the polls themselves and what the polls are actually showing us. And from what we're seeing, for a while, Harris was in the lead nationally since she took over the nomination away from Joe Biden. That national lead now seems to have waned. Trump seems to be just slightly edging her nationally, but also he's got an edge on her in the battleground states. So the metric that didn't matter as much for Trump to be leading in as the battleground states, he's now eclipsed her there, but just slightly. I mean, it's going to be a photo finish race, but lots of bad numbers for the Democrats.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the polling average still has Harris slightly ahead nationally. But state by state, looking at the Real Clear Politics polling average, Trump is ahead in every state. And by the way, if you compare it to the last 2 elections, even the Real Clear average, which has been the most accurate, last election, Biden was up by like 7 in Wisconsin in the polls. Like, these were not close elections, either one of them, 2016 or 2020, according to the polls. So this election, unless somehow the polls have suddenly become totally biased the other way, Trump's going to win because he's leading in all the states in the average.
I'm speaking to Maxim Lott, co-founder of electionbettingodds.com. and he's been a producer for John Stossel for years. We worked at the Fox Business Network together, 2010 to 2012. And Maxim, you also have founded a website that tracks the bias of artificial intelligence, which is another fascinating project that you've embarked on. You and I, we have always run in the circles of people who were more independent minded, despite the fact that you and I, living in New York City at the time, and you have since moved out into the country a little bit more to kind of get away from the insanity. We've never sort of been, I guess you might say, party men, right? We're more ideas men. And so it's been a struggle and a bit of a challenge as we've had to move into more pragmatic voting strategies, far and away from back in 2016, say, for example, when Rand Paul was running for president of the United States, kind of a no-brainer for people like us, right? It's like the people like that are strong candidates for the support of people who are more independent-minded, like you or I. Do you think that, it's hard for us to analyze ourselves because you're a nerd, I'm a nerd, right? We're just different kinds of nerds. But when you see Tulsi Gabbard and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and they're in that same boat, right, from the Democrats, more independent-minded, the coalition that Donald Trump is building, does that sort of give you a bit more, I don't know, just courage of your convictions to some extent? I'm not sure the phrase I'm looking for. But does it give you more confidence in the decision that you've made in getting on the Trump train, noting that you're not like a typical MAGA guy, right? You're more of an independent libertarian nerd type, again, as an independent libertarian nerd type, that like this coalition that Trump is building really is truly kind of an independent coalition to an extent?
It does seem to be a diverse coalition. Yet on my Substack at MaximumTruth.org, I just wrote a post called "The Rational Case for Trump," kind of giving a wonky summary of why, someone who's not the natural MAGA-like person might vote for Trump. And one of the points in there is intellectual tolerance. And so when RFK was dropping out of the race, he tried to talk with both Trump and Harris. And he said Harris refused to talk, wouldn't return his calls, refused to talk with him. Trump did, and they kind of worked something out where RFK endorsed him and he'll get some role in the administration. So just this open-mindedness, that's one difference that makes me a little more positive towards Trump than Harris. And yeah, there are other points in there as well. It's MaximumTruth.org.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's good to plug because we do get big numbers these days. Do you think Tulsi Gabbard, is she a canary in a coal mine in any sense? Or do you feel any sort of ideological kinship? She was a Democratic congresswoman, for God's sakes, endorsed by Barack Obama. Her coming on board, I know the left is going to downplay it, but it strikes me, I know we've kind of seen it coming for a little while if you're paying attention, all this kind of stuff, but I think it's sort of a big deal that a former congressperson from the Democrats joins the Republican Party. Would you agree?
Yeah, you do see the opposite going the other way. Plenty of former Republican congressmen endorsing Harris. It seems like the big divide here is kind of how trusting are you in the establishment? So Gabbard, even when she was a Democrat, was always kind of saying, well, we shouldn't be going into this war. We shouldn't be doing this. Like, I don't trust these people. So it's a bit of a natural fit with her skepticism and Trump. And you see the Republicans joining Harris are the people who are kind of always, trust the CIA, the military, and just trust that and go with that. So it's a realignment around how much trust you have in institutions and the establishment.
What's interesting is that I looked at the videos of Donald Trump at McDonald's the other day, and it's clearly quite aimed at a certain demographic. I don't know how you feel about McDonald's food, right? The type of people that we would hang out with in New York and rub elbows with typically are the champagne and caviar crowd and all that kind of stuff. But I kind of see, listen, I like a McDonald's. I like the steak, egg, and cheese bagel on a Friday morning as a gift to myself right after. I like a little bit of McDonald's. It feels like the reason, if Donald Trump wins, that the reason why he won is because the Democrats are so out of touch with the average voter that they couldn't hold on to their blue collar base, and that it feels to me as if the old blue collar union voting Democrat days are done, and that the Republican Party really has become the party of the middle class, which I find quite refreshing. Would you agree with that analysis?
I do. It does seem like it's shifting that way. It's interesting seeing Trump at McDonald's. A friend pointed out, none of the other candidates, Harris, Waltz, Vance, would be able to pull this off. And Trump does. And I think the reason is, if you look at him, he's actually having fun out there. He's like enjoying handing these things out, playing a role, acting.
Yeah.
And you can tell. And that's what makes it viral and fun.
Yeah, it's like I was watching the video where he was learning about how to do the fries, and he asked sincere questions about the process of making the French fries that if someone like just doesn't give a shit, they were just pretending, they wouldn't care. Like, so what do you do if they ask for more salt? Do you put more salt on it? They're like, oh, they do salt packets. Okay, we give them salt packets to take with them. Okay, so that they can salt their fries more. So he's like sitting down, learning all of the intricacies of this. I'm like, that's a man who has run a business. That's a man who he wants to know every aspect because he knows this is how he can ensure profitability for his business. And that goes from the fry cook all the way up to the CEO. And then, we didn't even mention the biggest independent in the room, Elon Musk, former Democrat, now on the campaign, a dynamic businessman. He's inspiring. Democrats say white dudes for Donald Trump, and they get a bunch of gay musical theater guys, not that there's anything wrong with that, to do their ads. But I think young men are far more likely to be connected to someone like Elon Musk than musical theater guys for Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. And yeah, that curiosity that you pointed out at McDonald's, I've seen that elsewhere too. He recently went on The Undertaker, this wrestler's podcast, and it's the other guy's podcast, but Trump just started asking him questions. And for like 6 whole minutes, it was Trump interviewing him and just question after question. He's like, do you guys get injured? What happens when there's a fight? Is it real fight or is it all it's really like, you could tell he was actually curious what this wrestling star's answers would be.
Oh, for sure. And there's something that speaks to, I don't know, the testosterone laden, roid rage freak that's inside every man, that, the beast that we're always having to tame and keep out, right? Some of us are more beastly than others. Some of us, like yourself, are much more, capable of like taming that beast, right? And being more sophisticated. Me, I'm a little bit more rough around the edges, for example. But if Donald Trump wins, you've got, I'm just going to say it, Aspie Elon Musk for all of our incel nerd types, right? You've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr. juiced to the max with roids in his 60s. You've got hot and sexy Tulsi Gabbard. You've got libertarian nerd Vivek Ramaswamy. And so many others. It's I don't know. It's not necessarily a dream coalition, but I mean, it's pretty damn close, right? Maybe if Rand Paul was in there at a top part of this administration, you really can't get much better, can you?
Yeah, it's a lot of smart people. The Financial Times did an analysis to if you look at Silicon Valley executives' donations, for the last 20 years, of course, they've been overwhelmingly Democratic. Just this year, executives have given more to Republicans than Democrats. And I mean, these are smart people. They're innovating. They're creating startups. These are the executives who are actually like building these companies. They're leaning Trump. And so it seems like creators are shifting. People who are actually in the private sector building things are moving towards Trump, and a lot of them are close enough to be in his administration. J.D. Vance too is a Silicon Valley guy who was investing in startups and all that.
It's fantastic
so
stuff.
Yeah, you compare it to Harris, where it's these people who got 2 master's degrees and a PhD, and have been kind of playing this game where you try not to offend anyone, and I much prefer the creator route.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we'll just see, because there's a lot of people out there that are like, but abortion, ooh, that's all they think about. So we'll see if that drives into the polls this fall, and if the potential, the promised red wave does not emerge, right? So Maxim, they can read your Substack at MaximumTruth.com. They can follow you on X at MaximLot. Is there anything else you want to share with our audience before we let you go?
Yeah, it's MaximumTruth.org, or you can just Google Maximum Truth Substack. And yeah, we got a good post there about Trump. Also one supporting Harris, just to be fair and balanced, a guest post. Yeah, hope you enjoy. And electionbettingodds.com will keep people informed about who's going to win. So.
Electionbettingodds.com. We will put it on bookmarks. Thanks, Maxim, and thanks for being so generous with your time. Have a great day.
Thank you, Austin.
Very good, Maxim, for that. Great. Good stuff. All right, what's next on our little agenda here?
Election Day is just over 2 weeks away, and the fight for every single last undecided vote in battleground states is intensifying. Vice President Kamala Harris is targeting disaffected Republican voters by hitting the trail with Liz Cheney in the crucial blue wall states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Cheney was a powerful Republican congresswoman, and today she called Harris a responsible adult. As for former President Donald Trump, he was back in North Carolina again, pushing false claims about FEMA and immigrants. That's after he spent the weekend slinging a crude insult at Harris, engaging in lewd locker room talk about the late golfing legend Arnold Palmer, and staging a campaign stunt at a Pennsylvania McDonald's.
That is just, God. That's the mainstream media. Here's what Kamala Harris is doing. She's crisscrossing. She's going to battleground states. She's hanging out with Liz Cheney. They're power ladies. And then all of a sudden, here comes the bad guy. And he's evil. And everybody panic. And he's a terrible, evil man.
Adult. As for former President Donald Trump, he was back in North Carolina again, pushing false claims about FEMA and immigrants. That's after he spent the weekend slinging a crude insult at Harris, engaging in lewd locker room talk about the late golfing legend Arnold Palmer, and staging a campaign stunt.
Lewd. No, not lewd. We can't do this. We can't have people making dick jokes. If Donald Trump takes over, men will feel empowered to start making jokes about their dicks again. No.
Do not come.
Says the left.
Do not come.
Says the left. Says Donald Trump, baby. Democrats, party of boner killers. The Republican Party, the party of boners.
From now on, it's going to be America first, okay? Yeah. America first.
You know, you love to see it. The Wake Up America show is brought to you in part by viewers and listeners just like you. I'm Austin Peterson. Guten Morgen, meine Damen und Herren. Willkommen, bienvenue. Welcome, fremde, étranger, stranger. Glücklich zu sehen, je suis enchanté. Enchanté. Happy to see you. Bleibe, rest, stay und sagen. Willkommen, bienvenue. Welcome im Cabaret, yo Cabaret, du Cabaret. 573-319-1586 is the text line for the Wake Up America show. If you would like to have your voice heard, we're going to hear from Judge Napolitano in less than 10. Und sagen. 573-319-1586. Listeners were texting in earlier today to say Tim Pool it was a little stunt to get views. No, he would never do it. He's announced he's getting married and having a daughter, cutting back on some shows, but he is not quitting. Thank you for that. Yes. Im Cabaret, yo Cabaret, du Cabaret. Nelson sending in pictures of his 1776 steel mug, and he got his Make America Great Again dark MAGA hat too. Nelson. Guys, the dark MAGA hat, and it came in really fast too. So if you want to get yours in time to catch liberal tears for election day, head to shop.com. Check out our awesome 1776 thermos. You can see there's our buddy Nelson. He helps set up in the morning. Fellow Jeffersonian, fellow Missourian. Show me Making America Great Again. That is a beautiful hat. Embroidered baseball cap. Make America Great Again. Elon Musk's dark MAGA hat. Willkommen, bienvenue. Welcome to For Liberty Shop, For Liberty Shop, For Liberty Shop. Head on over, guys, before I go get the judge, to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4, forlibertyshop.com. And when you do, you can get a Courage Under Fire collection, the exclusive. Nobody else in the world has this hat. You know why? Because I designed it myself, and Chinese companies haven't ripped it off yet. Thank God. The MAGA bullet hole hat. And it's funny because before he got shot at again, or they tried to kill him again, I had 2 bullet holes here. One for the incident now in Florida at the golf range, and the other for the incident in Pennsylvania. The MAGA bullet hole hat embroidered. Beautiful. You guys, I do only high quality stuff on my website. I don't sell you. Doug Ashby made those himself by hand. I don't sell you crap. So if you want a dark MAGA hat, head to forlibertyshop.com. I don't want you guys to get confused because sometimes you see something and it says like Walton and Johnson. That's for the Texas radio station, guys. So make sure that you get mine. I have a version for the Texas radio station. They're Walton and Johnson. Get my Elon Musk dark MAGA hat. You're like, Austin, that seems like a lot of money. It's beautiful. It's embroidered. Ask Nelson in the chat about the quality level of our dark MAGA hats. It's our #1 seller right now. Trust me, this is not a bad price because it includes the shipping, and so you don't have to worry about that. It's an Elon Musk dark MAGA hat. You'll get it before the election. Get it at forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. When we get back, Judge Knapp. I want to ask him about Tulsi Gabbard joining the Republican Party. I want to talk to him about the Subway Samaritan Daniel Penny's trial that is approaching. I want to talk to him about all the mysteries of the universe, and we will do that when we get back on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
Prices and big government? Don't be a ghost of your former self this Halloween. We've got shirts that'll keep the ghouls and the government off your back. Inflation's scarier than any haunted house, but hey, why not turn it into a costume? Or how about our spooky government shirt? Guaranteed to spook anyone who's afraid of too much power. But if you're feeling real edgy, nothing says Halloween like our Michael Myers No Lives Matter shirt. Cause when it comes to big government, we all get slashed. At forlibertyshop.com, we believe in freedom, not fear. So grab your libertarian Halloween gear before the government takes an extra bite out of your wallet. Or your candy. forlibertyshop.com. Let's make Halloween tax-free.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Not so far away, but a couple of centuries ago, a great struggle unfolded. A time of
by high prices and big government.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Everybody loves Wednesdays at 8 a.m. Central Time when we delve into the minutia of the issues that we face today. Judge Andrew Napolitano is an old friend of mine. We've known each other since, I think, 2009. And he and I worked together at Fox Business Network for 2 years. And we've been friends ever since then. One of my greatest inspirations is very generous with his time because he comes on every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Central. All rise for the great Judge Napolitano. Good morning, Judge. Nice to see you, sir.
Good morning, Austin. Thank you for that generous introduction. My apologies. My dog, Chris, is excited at a squirrel outside the house.
No, that's no problem. I've got the same thing with a couple of dogs at home, Judge. We're glad to have you here, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about a couple of big things. Real quick, before we talk about this Daniel Penny, the subway Samaritan, as I like to call him, I wonder what you think of Tulsi Gabbard joining the Republican Party, former Democrat Congresswoman, fiercely anti-war, joining the Republican Party because, I mean, it just seems so just wild, Judge, because anti-war is such an important issue for libertarians like ourselves. She gets on board with Donald Trump. I think the Democrats have kind of become the party of war and the Republicans are trending away. It's kind of a positive thing, wouldn't you say?
She won't last in the Republican Party because every war that Donald Trump wants to fight, the members of the House of Representatives will support him in lockstep, and she, who is a woman of conscience, in my view, will feel out of place. Is she in favor of genocide in Gaza? Because Donald Trump and 95% of the members of the House of Representatives who are Republicans are.
And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as well.
Yes, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You know, I advised RFK for a while, and he told me to stop asking him questions about Israel, that I was driving him crazy. You're as bad as my brothers and sisters and cousins driving me crazy about Israel. I'm not going to answer your questions about Israel anymore. All right. Okay, Bobby. But back to Tulsi Gabbard. She has a libertarian strain in her, so I don't know how she could find comfort in the National Republican Party, which only stands for whatever Donald Trump wants at the moment.
Well, maybe she's more Walter Block than Hans Hermann Hoppe.
When in that respect, that to some libertarians, Trump is the lesser of two evils. I can understand it.
Right. It's an interesting dynamic just because so many of these independent-minded people and former Democrats coming on board. But then you see, I mean, you talk about war, Liz Cheney, for example, right? The real neocons are abandoning ship. And we know it's because the Republican Party is not as warmongering as it was during the years of John McCain. For example, it's not the years of George W. Bush. So when you see Liz Cheney and Bill Kristol and other neocons sort of going back to the Democratic Party, which you and I know they came from anyway in the 1960s and 70s, the Henry Scoop Jackson Democrats, the conservative Democrats who became the neocons, it is sort of telling to see Liz Cheney and the Cheneys coming on board the Democratic Party, fleeing because war is their primary issue, is it not?
Yeah, I think with the Cheneys, it's personality. Trump attacked Dick Cheney the way you and I have, and they didn't like it. And Trump attacked her, and she didn't like it. She is a staunch warmonger. There's no question about it. So they're in lockstep on Israel, but not on Ukraine.
Yeah, Tim Walz, Kamala Harris's vice presidential pick, he said that there were the people like Liz Cheney who were supporting Kamala Harris. He likened them to libertarians like us. He said the "don't tread on me" types, the libertarians, and others who are not on board with Donald Trump's message, those are the kind of people who are jumping on board our campaign from the independent angle. And to some extent, he's right, Judge. I'm not sure if you saw Reason Magazine, their list of the names of the people that they've decided to support in this election. You have Chase Oliver, right? And many of them are voting for the Libertarian candidate. But then many of them are voting for Kamala Harris, not a single one for Donald Trump. So there are some libertarians who would throw in with. So Tim Walz was sort of correct. There are libertarians who will vote for Kamala.
To my way of thinking, Austin, a vote is such a personal thing, and people do it for a variety of reasons. Some people are one-issue voters. Right to life comes to mind. Taxes come to mind. War comes to mind. Other people balance, who has more good, who has greater evil. And some Republicans, and I know many, disagree with Kamala Harris on just about everything, but are voting for her because they want to restructure the Republican Party without Donald Trump. And in the image, these are well-intended people, Austin, in the image of Barry Goldwater and Ronald Reagan, which the party once was. I said earlier they stand for nothing, and you nodded. You agree with me. They do stand for nothing, the Republican Party today. Balanced budget, forget it. Free trade, forget it. Universal surveillance, all in favor of it. War, whenever the executive wants it without a declaration, yes, let's do it. We won't declare it, won't even debate it. Oh, but we'll pay for it. The Republicans are a disgrace in the Donald Trump years, and I hope that either if he loses or after he's no longer president, the party is crafted in the Goldwater-Reagan model, so it stands for something. So young people can look up to Republican leaders and know the values that they understand. The Democrats, to their credit, where they stand. They don't believe in the Constitution. They want the Congress to be a general legislature. They think it can right any wrong and regulate any endeavor and tax any event and intrude onto any relationship. Republicans believe that too. They just don't admit it.
Well, actually, many of them are admitting it these days, Judge. Many of the more progressive Republicans these days are very openly flouting the fact that they do not believe in free markets. And you'll hear quotes from Yoram Hazonis and from Marco Rubio saying that, pure market principles and our national interest are not aligned. I play a commercial that I produced of Ronald Reagan's Time for Choosing speech in juxtaposition of many of those quotes here on my show in the morning to show that the sort of the libertarian spirit of the Republican Party is waning, and I hope it is not totally lost. What I see in Donald Trump is a willingness to entertain making someone like yourself a candidate for a Supreme Court pick as a sort of a willingness to sup with or dine with people who have ideas like yours and like mine. So I think that there, I would have been much more convinced, of course, if he had actually done it, because, I've been pushing and angling and hoping for something like that for years, but I'll take you being Attorney General. I guess I will settle for such a thing, right? But he's consulted you. You've known him for years. He listens to you. He bends your ear. Kamala, I assume Kamala Harris and her campaign have not reached out to you yet for a similar interview.
No. She and I were on a panel discussion together, but it was 15 years ago, and I didn't even remember. She was the DA from San Francisco at the time. Listen, also on that panel were Justice Scalia and Justice O'Connor. I didn't even remember that then District Attorney Harris was on the panel until somebody, Jimmy Rosen, I used to work with at Fox and now at Newsmax, sent me a photo of the panel, and there she was. That's the only time. And once Senator Cory Booker, introduced me to her in the Senate dining room when I was there having lunch with Senator Rand Paul. So my only, excuse me, interactions with her have been very brief. They couldn't care less what libertarians think. Although they're so scrambling for votes now, it wouldn't surprise me if they throw out some kind of a bone, not to me, but to in some way to entice libertarians.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, Judge, somebody's vote is a very personal thing. But you and I, we are not of the left libertarian tradition. Your and my cultural backgrounds couldn't be more different, and yet we arrive at the same conclusions 99.9% of the time. And you are a strict pre-Vatican II traditionalist Catholic libertarian. And I come from a little bit more wild, rough edge country boy, kind of a lifestyle. And we come together in these principles of liberty, but we don't stand in solidarity with people who are the more, I guess, champagne and caviar crowd that prefers the Democrats to the Republicans. Most of our friends that are in government tend to be people like Rand Paul or Thomas Massie or others. Culturally, you and I, for example, we tend to stand more with the Thomas Massies of the world than we do like what's the closest to a crunchy granola. What's maybe Jared Polis of the governor of Colorado would be the closest to a libertarian Democrat there might be. And yet some people who judge you and I, we run in ideological circles with, they act in disgust to the right libertarian movement, many of whom are on board the Donald Trump campaign. Some of them, many of them, just like you, agree with you for the Walter Block divide, for example. Many agree with you on the foreign policy issue. They're not on board the Trump train, and they don't know who they're going to be voting for this fall. But it's difficult for me to fathom the left libertarian mindset, right? That is so focused on the cultural issues versus the economic and the legal issues, the lawfare that the left practices. I mean, there is that kind of left-right libertarian divide, right, Judge? And we sit more on the right side of that. I mean, to some extent, correct?
I agree with everything you just said. But getting back to voting, I mean, I'll probably vote for the right to life person. I haven't voted for a Republican since I voted for Ronald Reagan in 1984.
Wow. Wow.
For the reasons I have articulated with you about they really don't stand for anything. Certainly, post 9/11, they don't stand for anything. Exquisitely post the entry of Trump into the party, they don't stand for anything. Trump wants to amend the First Amendment to allow Congress to criminalize flag burning. Trump wants to amend the Fifth Amendment. You ready for this? To allow police to administer punishment at the scene of the crime, whatever punishment the police choose to administer. This would bring us back to worse than life was before we had a constitution, before we had seceded from Great Britain.
Judge, there are many libertarians who find my libertarianism insufficient because I am not openly supporting Ukraine in their conflict against Russia. There are many libertarians who are critical of me. They say that I'm not insufficiently sufficient of Israel in their war on Gaza. These are libertarians who are voting for Kamala Harris.
They are not libertarians if they're in favor of the war in Ukraine and slaughter in Gaza. They don't believe in natural rights, and they don't believe in the principle that we can't fight a war unless the adversary poses a threat to us. Does Russia pose a threat to us? No. Do we pose a threat to Russia? Let's see. Lindsey Graham said to Joe Biden, you should assassinate Vladimir Putin. NATO wants to put missiles in Ukraine aimed at Moscow. Can you imagine if China put missiles in Mexico aimed at Dallas? What would we do? We would attack.
So would you call these something more perhaps pro free market liberals then, to some extent, more than libertarian?
What are they? Are they libertarian on all issues except foreign policy? There is that seduction. and they're voting for Harris. This is a strange
It's like
brand of libertarianism.
It's like Ambassador John Bolton, for example, who argued once when I was in the building, the Fox News building. I think I came upstairs and told you directly after because I had to get a laugh because John Bolton had said to me that he was a libertarian. He and I debated that, and you're laughing, yes. But what is funny, Judge?
Because I remember this now, and John said the same thing to me. Good Lord!
But here's the thing. He agrees with us on free markets. He's a fellow lover of and reader of Bastiat. He finds himself frequently in agreement with Friedrich Hayek's view of the economy. The neocons, they agree with libertarians on things like drug policy, right? They agree with us on immigration even. George W. Bush, by the way, much better on immigration from a libertarian perspective than Donald Trump, of course.
Agreed on that. But the John Bolton types never met a war they didn't want somebody else to fight.
Well, their argument is what George Washington argued, which is sivi pacem parabellum, right? The idea that they just simply argue that if you want peace, prepare for war, but of course they take it too far.
There's nothing wrong with preparing for war, not at the expense of $880 billion a year, which is more than the next 12 countries combined, including China, which has a bigger navy, and Russia, which has a bigger army. I mean, John Bolton, and I like him, as you know, I worked with him for a couple of years, would increase that budget, advocates bombing Tehran. He and Lindsey Graham want to destroy Tehran's nuclear capability and oil refineries. Hey, John, you like Economics 101? What will you be paying for gas the day after Iran's oil refineries are destroyed? $10, maybe $12 a gallon? How's that going to go over with your Republican buddies?
Judge, would you say that someone could maintain their libertarian bona fides and still believe in a military that is strong, but acts in a constitutional manner? In other words, a minarchist who believes in a constitution and an American republic that's able to defend itself militarily.
Now, you know why I'm laughing. Because a hero of yours and mine did not believe in a standing army, Thomas Jefferson.
but he raised a navy.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. To be realistic, yes, you have to have a national defense, but not one so strong that a presidential candidate can threaten to dispatch it into the streets to quell the anger of his political opponents. I would hope that a military ordered to do that would tell the president to go take a hike.
Yeah, strong enough to defeat our enemies, not strong enough to be used against our own people. And therein lies the rub, because with the passage of the Patriot Act, with the passage of national defense authorizations, buried within are the means of domestic tyranny that starts with the cracking down on foreign enemies. And when there are no foreign enemies left to fight, or no agent provocateur willing to start a fight overseas, then those tools of tyranny are brought home, as many of the people that you and I admire have stated in sacred texts like Human Action and The Road to Serfdom. It is a fascinating situation that we find ourselves in with this election, Judge. And there's one story that I think is indicative of the rot of our culture, which is this subway Samaritan story of Daniel Penny. The concept of not being able to defend yourself or the lives of the people around you is alien to the people that I live with, Judge. My fellow Missourians, the people here that are in my communities, they believe in a culture of self-defense. And if I were at a supermarket and I was being harassed, it's quite likely that someone would step in on my behalf to help me with my daughter. If there was someone who was in danger, people have a different attitude out here. But in New York and in places where, like you live in New Jersey, maybe not your specific community, but just across the river in many places of New Jersey, they do not believe in this right of self-defense. It's almost illegal to be a good Samaritan. Tell us about this case of Daniel Penny. What will he have to say or do or argue? What would be the smartest case for someone like himself to make if he wanted to defend himself appropriately in a place that outlaws self-defense?
Well, New York and New Jersey, I don't know about Missouri, but New York and New Jersey have, and this is reprehensible and it violates the natural right to self-defense, what's known as the duty to retreat. And if you are threatened, but there is a safe place to which you can retreat, you have a duty to go there. Unfortunately for Penny, he articulated the fact that he was defending others, not that he was defending himself. He never said to the police, I don't know what he's going to say on the witness stand, but if he takes the witness stand and they cross-examine him, which they will if he takes the stand, the jury will hear that he never himself felt threatened. The other legal principle that goes against his defense is that you can only use the type of force that with which you were threatened. So if you're threatened with deadly force, and it's a subjective test, if you believe you're threatened with, if a guy's got a plastic pistol, but you think it's a real Glock, and you have a Glock, you can shoot him. But if you're not threatened with deadly force, if you're threatened with something that's just disgusting, you can't use deadly force on it. The third problem that he has is the 3 minutes that he suppressed this guy's Adam's apple. The government will put experts on the stand to show that this was well beyond the type of force that with which Penny was confronted. And the prosecutors will have a field day with this by counting down the 3 minutes and reminding the jury how long that actually is to go without breathing. So I don't think he's in good shape legally. He has very good counsel, but I would have advised in this environment, I'm talking about now in the courtroom, I'm not talking about then in the subway car, a plea agreement with the government, because he's facing 15 or 20 years in jail, which is the prime of his life. He's about 25 or 30 years old.
Andrew Napolitano joins us live this morning on the Wake Up America show. He joins us live every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Central Time, and he's the host of his own extremely popular show, Judging Freedom, which you can download on your mobile devices, wherever you get your podcasts, and you can also read his weekly column at judgenap.com. But Judge, there's another show that's being promoted around. Some extreme, far-left socialist Democrat from the United Kingdom is having you on his show tonight.
Yes. That is the great anti-war warrior, George Galloway, who reached out to me. Apparently, he and his team are fans of Judging Freedom, and I will tell him on air about your show. George is very influential amongst lefties in Europe who are fiercely anti-war. He was the scourge of Rishi Sunak when Mr. Sunak was the Prime Minister of Great Britain 8 months ago, and George was a member of Parliament. He lost his seat in the same election that brought Keir Starmer to the prime ministership, so he's back doing his podcast. But he's hilarious, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Mighty Megatron over in the chat says, I watched George Galloway. I imagine you won't want to miss the judge's appearance on George Galloway. Judge, I saw that he promoted it over on his X page, so if people want to be able to watch it, then they can go over to his X page and see. They've got a nice picture of you posted up over there. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience, Judge, before we let you go today?
Well, I mean, I enjoy all my time with you. My column this week is about the Constitution and war, but you and I have already talked about that. I think next week I'm going to write one called Tweedledee Tweedledum, how there's really no difference between Harris and Trump except for personalities. Now, he'll get mad at me for saying that, but he understands it. You know, when he interviewed me for the Supreme Court, he looks at me, he goes, I know you didn't vote for me. That's how the interview started. I know you didn't vote for me.
Judge, you never cease to amaze. Follow him at Judge Knapp over on X.com. Judge, thank you for your friendship and being so generous with your time. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Austin. It's a pleasure. I'll see you next week. All the best.
See you next week. Napolitano there. All right. Well, I think there's a lot that I disagree with the judge and his analysis of Trump. I think that the judge is taking the black pill too much, right? He's just, I think he's too negative about the future. And, maybe it's because I have a beautiful daughter and today is my anniversary, my 3-year anniversary with my wife, Stephanie, that I'm so optimistic, especially when I see and hear things like my next guest, Michael Howdy. He's joining us live in about 5 minutes. And Michael Howdy is, let me tell you this guy's story, okay? Let me just read it here real quick. Michael here's the bio, right? He was president of the College Democrats. He was vice president for all of the college Democrats in his state. He went on to hold a national position with the College Democrats of America, where he was responsible for chartering new chapters of College Democrats. He worked on the Clinton campaign as a motorcade driver. He organized phone rallies, phone banking, rallies, protests, canvassing for Clinton. He donated to Joe Biden in 2020, and he just voted for Donald Trump for the first time. He's going to join us in less than 5 minutes. Don't go away. Go to forlibertyshop.com. Get your Elon Musk dark MAGA hat in time for the election to celebrate and capture all of the liberal tears of our next guest's former friends. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Penny. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite.
And it is because of my love for our country, and specifically because of the leadership that President Trump has brought to transform the Republican Party and bring it back to the party of the people and the party of peace, that I'm proud to stand here with you today, President Trump, and announce that I'm joining the Republican Party.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Thanks for sticking around today. My next guest, very exciting. Former Democrats joining the Republican Party. We've got Tulsi Gabbard, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Elon Musk, and my next guest, Michael Hout, joining us live from Poland, of all places, former Democrat, this year voting for Trump. Good morning, Michael, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Austin. Thank you for having me.
Michael, I've read your bio out a little bit earlier, but I think it bears repeating. You were heavily embedded in college Democrats. You have been a big Clinton supporter in the past. You voted for Joe Biden. You donated to Joe Biden in 2020. And now you're voting for Donald Trump, or you voted for Donald Trump. That's quite a change for someone who is deep in the machine, Michael. So talk us through this.
Yeah, so one small correction, I did not vote for Joe Biden. I donated to him early on, but I ended up, basically writing in a name. And in fact, I think you ran in 2016, right, as a Libertarian candidate. And I was thinking today, I was like, man, if he was on the ballot in 2020, maybe I would have voted for him then. But 2016, of course, I was with Clinton. But, Austin, it was not something that happened quickly. My Washington Post article, which I was talking about in the video that I put out, which is through Walkaway, by the way, I should shout them out. That was 7 years ago. That was 2017. And it wasn't until this year, 7 years later, that I'm voting for Trump. So this was something that over a long period of time, going well before 2017, I was trying to sort out.
Okay, so talk us through your thought processes here. I mean, you were deeply embedded with the Democrats, much like
Right.
Tulsi Gabbard. She was, I think, vice chair of the Democratic National Committee. She didn't like what she saw. I guess same for you.
Yeah, and funny enough, I remember meeting Tulsi when I was heavily involved in college Democrats. It might have been at DNC or something like that. But so it's funny kind of where we've both ended up. I guess I joined the party initially because my family is predominantly Catholic from Massachusetts. We had books of John F. Kennedy all over the place, pictures on the wall. And so I grew up kind of thinking of Democrats as kind of this bold party that took us to space. Of course, that ended up happening under Nixon. I suppose a lot of the decisions I made politically were, through a lens of history and not necessarily where the party was at that moment. And it just so happened that when I became involved, I just happened to be good at, the organization work and was able to kind of rise up the ranks. And so by the time I kind of figured, I was a little in the out group ideologically, I was in a higher position. But I just felt over time the party was getting more and more sort of Puritan in its behavior.
Puritan. Now, that's a good word. Well, what issues would you say that they had become puritanical on?
So, well, Puritan, I'm from Massachusetts. So you think about the Puritans sort of as this kind of meek, kind of group like the Amish, a lot of people do. But in reality, they were, quite, intolerant of, for example, Catholics, right, and other groups. And in fact, all these states that sort of form in the early colonial period in America around Massachusetts are largely because people are getting away from the Puritans, right? They've had enough of it, or they're exiled. And in England, under Cromwell, the Puritans, of course, commit regicide. Charles I, they enslave Irish children, send them to the West Indies. They butcher people for their religious beliefs. And so I think that, I'm not saying that the Democrats are about to take up the sword against the Republicans or anything, but I'm just trying to imply that they increasingly grew more and more intolerant of opposing beliefs. They had this real sense of moral righteousness. And, you look at, for example, Joe Manchin this year is leaving, and they're almost certainly going to lose the Senate because of that. And, I just think the party became increasingly more and more intolerant of heretics, quote unquote.
And in what issues were you a heretic on? What, that you believed in free speech? Is that what made you an outlier?
Yeah, that was one. I remember going to University of Chicago for a free speech event, and attending some other events that were maybe not so kosher, but there were just so many occasions where, you'd be encouraged to post about Black Lives Matter. You'd be encouraged to go to pro-choice events. I wasn't personally sure I was, fully pro-choice, right? I have this kind of Catholic background. And, so there's really many examples. But yeah, I would say kind of the core classical liberal, like Enlightenment principles, like freedom of speech, freedom of things like this, were where I had the biggest issues with the activist wing.
So the Democratic Party, a lot of people that I'm seeing that have left the Democrats, they say that they're standing still, and the Democrats have gone farther to the left. My brother, for example, he's a frequent guest on my show. He comes on Fridays, and it's a great conversation because he was always kind of like, he's a moderate liberal, right? A Hillary Clinton voting Democrat, moderate liberal. And now he's full-blown based and red-pilled. Now, maybe my years of libertarian harassment of him over the years, maybe that helped a little bit, but still,
right.
Do you feel as if you have shifted ideologically, or do you feel like you stood still?
I've definitely shifted somewhat ideologically. I think I have become a little bit more conservative. But I think for the most part, I'm in the same, portion of the Overton window. I haven't moved drastically. I did feel like between the time I joined the party, which was around 2012, I was doing phone banking for Obama. And when I left in 2017, that felt like a large change.
Are there any positions that Donald Trump stands for that you particularly resonate with, or is it just that he is a rejection of what the Democratic Party has become, maybe a little bit of both?
Well, one of my favorite presidents is Calvin Coolidge, actually, who's also from Massachusetts. And, he was big about kind of reforming the bureaucratic state and being a bit more frugal. And so I really identify with, the idea of Trump sort of working with people like Musk to reform the federal government and try to make it more efficient, because I did work in Congress for a bit and did some work for politicians in addition to just campaigns. And I definitely saw my share of inefficiency and questionable, actions. And so I do feel like there's a lot of fat that can be trimmed. But, also I do believe like Roe should be left up to the states, right? I would say I probably don't agree if he's trying to enforce a federal ban, like just personally. But I'm also very much against like late term abortion, things like this. So, I just think, despite all of the, rhetoric, I think he is sort of the more moderate choice in this election.
That's just kind of fascinating to hear somebody say that, especially a former Democrat, the more moderate. He talks about the Republican Party becoming the party of common sense. And, my ideological beliefs have always been towards what I would consider the more radical side of the spectrum when it comes to being a Republican. I'm from the liberty wing of the Republican Party, right? The Thomas Massey, Rand Paul wing of the Republican Party. Those are kind of who I would roll with. But
Right.
Donald Trump really is not exactly one of me, but some of the facets of libertarianism are there. My last guest, Judge Napolitano, who's very black pilled, it was just like, there's nothing about him. He's the same as all of the rest of them. And I just really don't agree. I see a lot of there's Donald Trump is so completely different from Republicans of tradition. He's not like George W. Bush. He's not like he's different than all of them, isn't he?
He is, and I just think him being an outsider, which is something that initially I did look at, just beyond just being a Democrat. Hillary Clinton have this experience as Secretary of State, as a senator, all these things, contrasted with Trump not having this experience. I did look at that as a big positive for her, like objectively. But nowadays, I'm tending to see it more as, well, he is kind of this outsider, even though he has been president at this point. And I think that does make him somewhat more willing to be bold, right? Like John F. Kennedy, like my hero John F. Kennedy, and try to address some really big, things. Whereas, the so-called uniparty, right? These kind of Democrat Republican bureaucrats, they don't want to tackle these extremely complex issues, or worse, they want to get in the way of boldness, right? Like the California Coastal Commission trying to prevent Elon Musk from having rocket launches because of his political views. So I just think that I think of that now as an advantage more than a detraction.
When the left refers, as they are often wont to do, to Donald Trump as the next Hitler or as a Nazi, how do you respond to that?
I was a history teacher for 4 years, high school history teacher, and that's what I do for a living, is read history books and write about it. And it's just insane to me. I think that I think the use of the term fascism in itself is so ridiculous, and such a it's a relic of a particular time period, a particular movement originating in Italy. It's not in any way resembling, Trump or really any modern politician, in my view. And so I just think it's like what do you call it? It's like a death rattle or something. It's some type of like reflex, like they know they're losing, so it's just okay, throw the spaghetti at the wall.
Reckless punches, yeah. Yeah, he's like Hitler if you take away the concentration camps, the anti-Semitism, you take away the mustache, take away invading countries who have not attacked you and plans to rule the world. If you take away all those things, I mean, he does drink water and Hitler drinks water. So I guess you could say, there you go, right? He's basically the next Hitler. Michael, this is a fascinating conversation. I'm glad that you're here. This is Michael Hout. If you've never heard or seen him before, it's his first time on the Wake Up America show. He is a former leader of the college Democrats. He's campaigned for Hillary Clinton. I think you were a motorcade driver. So did you drive her around?
No, that's Secret Service only. So I worked with the Secret Service. So I had to wear like a little lapel pin, and they had to search my car and all these things. But they're called the principal, right? So like the presidential candidate or the president or like the vice president, they have to be driven by the Secret Service. But all of the kind of peripheral people, right? Like their advisors, their speechwriters, maybe even their family members in some cases, would be driven by people like me. And I got to do that for probably about a 6-month period, and it's fun to be a fly on the wall in that regard.
I'm sure it was. Michael, what did you think of Donald Trump showing up to a McDonald's the other day and working as a fry cook for 15 minutes? What's your reaction? What do you think of something like that?
I thought it was brilliant, old school politics. For some reason, though, in my head, I kept thinking about was it George H.W. Bush with the tamale, like the complete antithesis of it. But I thought it was great old school politics, and I just try to imagine Kamala Harris. I don't know if she did work there, didn't work there. I have no knowledge one way or the other, but I know that today, at what is she, 60? Like she could not go in there and do what he did. And I don't care that they're pre-selected people. Like, he just had 2 assassination attempts. Give me a break. Like, he did great. I thought it was really refreshing.
Yeah, it's funny. I felt he just looked so cute with his gold hair and the golden fries and his apron, and he was asking serious questions about how to run the fry machine. It felt like a genuine interest. I saw Kamala, for example, doing something. I think it was with hurricane relief, and she couldn't even look normal by putting deodorant into plastic bags. Like, it was very like. She has very strong "don't touch me" vibes. Whereas with Donald Trump, you kind of want to run up to him and give him a hug and say, can I have some French fries? There's a profound cultural difference between these candidates.
Yeah, I mean, you might, I've met Bill Clinton. I was in the motorcade for his 70th birthday, actually. You can give him credit, I think, for having a similar skill, right? Even if you don't like Bill Clinton, like, he has that skill and that memory for people, and I think, respect when he's talking to people, maybe not respect in other ways, but like, I think that's just such a great skill that he has. I mean, it makes him just such a naturally strong candidate. And I think if he wasn't up against such institutional headwinds, he's the much better candidate. It's just the institutional headwinds, the media, the lies, all these. I mean, that's what makes it a 50-50 race.
It's an interesting race, too, because for a while there, Kamala Harris leading in national polls, but the battleground states are really what matter. Michael, do you think that the Democratic Party, if they lose, if Kamala Harris loses as the candidate, do you think that they go back to the drawing board, or do they triple down? Is there anyone in the Democratic Party with enough sense to tell them that they've gone off the rails?
It's tough to say. I definitely think back to the congressman I worked for. I always thought he was very, affable, relatable, and sane, like, certainly in private. And I think there are sane people in the Democratic Party. I just think they're so captured ideologically by these extremists and by activists, right? So I don't really know. I mean, I suppose it depends on what do you think the impact is going to be of Pelosi probably not being in the picture, or, Hakeem Jeffries stepping in. Schumer will probably not be in the picture that much longer, right? So who's going to step into those positions, and what's the impact going to be? I mean, I think they should moderate, but, will they? That's a big question.
Michael, is there anything that you think I may have glossed over or missed in this conversation? Any key points that you wanted to bring up that you'd like to share with our audience, or insight before we let you go today?
So maybe a small anecdote. So I remember one of the points at which I realized I might be in the wrong party. I was sitting at a college Democrat event, and the person sitting at the table across from me, who was also in an elected position in college Democrats, started to try to evangelize to me about the need to abolish prisons, and not in any sort of like libertarian, like, freedom sense, but just in a, prisons are racist, there needs to be no prison, like. And I remember just like wanting to bash my head against the wall and trying to actually debate this person while we're at lunch, because we had just sat down to lunch. And, what about murderers? What about rapists? What about this and this and this? Need to abolish prison. So it's, I want to underscore, like, it's not that those are the people necessarily running the party, but those are some of the people in college Democrats. And, you have to wonder how many of the people professing to be somewhat, maybe not moderate, but like, not quite that far left, like, secretly are like much more left than you expect, including Kamala Harris.
Michael, where can people follow you online and find out more about your work?
It's at Michael J. Hout, Hout, on Twitter. Follow me there. I'm planning to come out with a Substack, I think, pretty soon. So feel free to follow me there.
Hey, Michael, I'm really thankful that you reached out to me to share your story from the Walk Away campaign. And I'm also thankful that you were so generous with your time this morning to grace us with your presence. I hope you'll keep in touch. And as you have updates on what you're working on, that you'll send them over and maybe come back again someday.
I would love to, Austin. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael. Take care and good luck to us all on this election. There. Former Democrat Michael J. Hout joins us on the Wake Up America show. There you go. So the Wake Up America show is not just the judge in Austin debating this or that on Wednesday mornings. It's not just Tuesdays and Thursdays. Camellia is on at 8. Oh, yeah, we know what's going to happen. We know he's going to make her blush, and they got all this stuff. It's not just Freedom Family Fridays, and there's a little baby, and it's a red-haired girl jokes, and they're being sexy and all that stuff. And it's not just Mondays with the Miltimore. It's so much more than that. The Wake Up America show, the show that you're watching right now, is part of the For Liberty Network. And this show specifically, my show, that's been going strong now for 2 years, professional podcasting. It's about more than just those stalwarts, those building blocks, the foundation of what builds the show, because it is also the green shoots and the gardens that I am planting here, the seeds of liberty that I'm planting and bringing to you names and faces and voices that you may not have heard from, talking to them, asking them questions, letting them talk, as Look It's Liz noted this morning. Thank you, Look It's Liz. Thank you, Liz. Yes, letting them talk. And giving you an opportunity to hear from other names and voices that you might not have heard. So it's not just it's the same show, the same setup. Every day, there's always a chance you're going to see or hear something that you've never heard before, and you're not going to hear from anyone else, more than likely. That's the Wake Up America show. It is my gift to you, the audience. It is my blood, my sweat, my tears, my career. I'm fully invested and giving you the absolute best of me and of what I can gain access to and share with you, the audience. And I'm so grateful that you've been helping me, supporting me, joining us, clicking like, subscribing. You have been clicking like and subscribing, right? Right. If you want to get on the family Christmas card list, the Peterson family Christmas card list, Friday is the cutoff date. Okay. So how can I get on the family Christmas card list for the Peterson family this year? It's easy. You go to the show's website, wakeupAmericaShow.com. You click on the button that says support. If you're on your mobile device, you'll have to go to the little hamburger menu. Looks like 3 lines, looks like a hamburger. You'll click on that, open up that little menu. It says support. You could just type in wakeupAmericaShow.com/support too, right? It's easy. And then you go scroll down till you see Peterson's Patriots. Sign up, become a member of Peterson's Patriots. You get on the family Christmas card list. You get the 20% discount at forlibertyshop.com. You get entered into monthly prize drawings and giveaways. And when the new year comes around and Liberty Tonight and Culturama, the 2 new shows, are on their feet and they're on their own and the babies are flying, then I turn my attention to maybe 2 more shows on the For Liberty Network. And maybe it's time to start investing in the documentary, the battle side of the Battle of Athens documentary then. So more Liberty content in bigger ways. Stories that only I can tell. They're inside here. And so a Peterson's Patriot member is unlocking all of the creative potential that I have inside of me. You get a little something back, and we build the Liberty community. We plant the seeds in the garden. Help me and Steffi and baby Hazel and Angelo and Daniela and Brian and the king of all libertarians help to water the seeds that we are planting by becoming a member of Peterson's Patriots right now. Go to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support, become a Peterson's Patriot member today, and the blessings of liberty shall be granted. See, civilization thrives when old men plant seeds for trees whose shade they will not be able to enjoy. That's the Wake Up America show. That's us. and a surprise tomorrow morning, as Camellia has noted. So lots of fun, hijinks, shenanigans, goofball antics. It's the Wake Up America show. Don't forget to exit through the Grift Shop at forlibertyshop.com. Those of you who are Peterson's Patriot supporters, use that 20% discount. It's Christmas time. There's lots of goodies out there. Get yourself a Daniela body pillow, you miscreants, and head to forlibertyshop.com. We'll see you right here tomorrow on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Have a good day, guys.
The Wake Up America shows bonus content. The financial generosity of Arna criticized churches for not engaging in political discussions. His research found that only 56% of Christian churches
We started this journey together, bringing you the Wake Up America show every morning. I couldn't have done it without my incredible wife, Steffi, who's always by my side, and now our beautiful baby, Hazel, who's already getting used to studio life, waiting patiently during Freedom Family Fridays. What truly makes this show special is you. Your donations, your purchases from forlibertyshop.com. You're not just supporters, you're family. Together we've built something amazing, and we're just getting started. Thank you for being a part of our family. Here's to many more years of Wake Up America.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor of your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit petersonvoicestudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at ap4libertyshop.com.